Maryland will win at least 7 games this year.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys all for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate GM. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free and has no ads and is 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONTFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost on your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. I think that Maryland football will win at least 7 games this season. And the reason I come up with 7 this season and the reason that I'm at over 7 wins for Maryland is because their win total on all the betting websites, and I don't bet or anything, but on all the betting websites, it's at 6.5. for the Maryland Terrapins, which I thought it was interesting. College football is back, so I decided today would be a good idea to kind of tell you why I think Maryland will go over their win prediction that DraftKings has set it at 6.5, and FanDuel has it at 6.5 as well. And so the interesting part about this is that Maryland over the last couple of years has won 8 games, has won 7 games. So we've gone over this total the past 3 years. So they're expecting us to regress, which I think is a normal thought for most of the national media. When you look at the Terrapins team, the expectation is for us to get worse. It just is. We lose Talia Tungavailoa. We lose some starters in our secondary. We lose some important offensive linemen. We lose a lot of guys on our team. But I do think a lot of the team from last year is still here. This is a lot of roster turnover. I think the biggest loss people look at is Talia Tungavailoa at the quarterback position, and they say Maryland's not getting over 6.5 wins without Talia Tungavailoa. And I say that's reasonable for the line to be set at 6.5. Like, I think it's a good line. It's reasonable to have those thoughts about Maryland football saying, yeah, they've lost their quarterback. Yeah, they've lost their entire offensive line. They're going to have 5 new starters up front. Yeah, they lost Jayshon Jones in their receiver room. Yeah, they lost their 2 starting corners. They lost Jason Barham, their maybe most talented player on defense to Michigan. And I say, yeah, okay. The win total does make sense. When I'm really going through the schedule, I think 6.5 is a good line by the books. But that doesn't mean I don't think that the Terps will go over. First of all, I have confidence in Coach Locksley. Before I really get into the schedule and really break it down, I have confidence in Coach Locksley. The way he has built this program, the way he's gotten this program out of really the dirt, has got it into a much better spot, has got it into a really pretty good spot in the Big Ten, I would say. I mean, I think when you look at the Maryland team and you say, oh, we're a middle-ish type of team in the Big Ten, I think you would take that about 4 or 5 years ago for the Terps, and I think we've been fairly successful, and I feel like Coach Locksley has done it the right way. I like the way he's run his offense. There's some minor things, of course, but I think he's a good coach, and I think that a lot of people are going to look at the loss of Talia and being like, that was your whole team, but I still believe that Coach Locksley was the biggest part of us having success. And he's still here, and he's still here for Maryland football. But I also believe that whoever the quarterback is, and I'm still waiting for Coach Locksley to announce the quarterback because I don't even want to talk about it because I feel like whenever I talk about it, I feel like in the next hour he's going to post it. So I'm just waiting for him to make that announcement to talk about that segment. But I think we have 3 solid options at the quarterback position, but I feel like we have a really good defense that can be a top 30 type of defense. We have weapons. The offensive line's a question mark. I'm not saying we're going to go out there and win 10 games, but I like us to win over 6.5. We've done it the last 3 years. We've won 3 straight bowl games. And when I dive into the schedule, I really do think we have a pretty good shot at winning over 6.5 games when I really get into the Maryland football schedule and when I really get into it. So First of all, there's a couple of easy wins that are definitely going to come when I look at it. UConn week 1, that's an automatic win. And then also Villanova on September 21st. That would be week 4 would also be an automatic win for us, I believe. So I really believe those are 2 wins for the Maryland Terrapins that are going to happen, that are definitely 2 wins that there's no question about it. You get those 2. So that's a pretty good start to getting over the win total. You got to have a couple of those easy chip-ins, easy putt types of games. And so I'm looking at that. I'm saying, okay, that's 2 wins right there. So now I got to find 5 other wins. And here's my thing. I think there's definitely 5 other wins on the schedule. Michigan State in week 2. I believe that's more than likely going to be a win for Maryland. Could be a closer game than a lot of people think, but I do think that's a win for the Terps. Week 3 against Virginia, I think that's a win. So right there, we had the UConn and Villanova. That's a win to me. That's 2 wins. Michigan State, Virginia, I probably would say that's 4 wins. At the worst, maybe 3 wins, but I'm expecting us to get to 4 wins in our first 4 games. To be honest, Michigan State, we get them at a good time. New quarterback, new coach. I've said it multiple times. I expect that to be our second win. Virginia, we get them at the right time. I believe they have their second year starting quarterback before he really gets a groove and everything. I like us to beat Virginia in that game. I think we're better, even on the road. And then week 5 against Indiana, I say that's another probably win. I don't think Indiana's all that special this year. If we get the quarterback play right, if the quarterback plays all right, I think we beat Indiana. So that's 5 wins right there. Northwestern 6. But if you really want to look at it, you can't just be like, oh, I think we're going to win that game. I think we're going to win that game. I think between Michigan State, Virginia, Indiana, Northwestern, could we drop one? I think that's entirely possible. I think we have a really good shot at winning all of them, but I think we could drop one. So, okay, let's say we start the season 5-1. All right, let's go with that. And then, so we need 3 more wins to get over the 7-win mark. If we start the season 5-1, to get over the 6.5 win mark. To be honest, you only need 2 more to get over to that 7 mark. So when I look at the rest of the schedule, it's really tough. But do I believe there's 2 more wins on that schedule? Yes. I look at USC at home, probably a loss. But you never know. I did say that the Terps are going to win that game, and I do think it's a potential upset. So don't just count that one out yet. Minnesota, October 26th, I believe we win that game. And then we also get Rutgers on November 16th, another game that I believe that we win, a team that might be a little bit better, but I think we beat Rutgers. Iowa, November 23rd, Iowa's supposed to be better, but don't count that Iowa win off. So I look at the Terps schedule and I say, I think we're going over. UConn win, Michigan State win, that's 2. Virginia probably a win, that's 3. Villanova win, that's already 4. Indiana, Northwestern, you split that, that's 5. Minnesota is 6. And then you got to either beat USC, Rutgers, or Iowa. And I believe you have a pretty good shot at winning one of those games. And that doesn't even count if you lose to that doesn't even count if you go 6-0 to start, and then you only have to win 1 more game in the back half of your schedule. I think that when you look at this team, I really do like the over on the Maryland wins. I do think that they'll get to that number. I do think they'll get to at least 7 wins. The schedule's easier than it's been in the past, and we've won 8. We've gotten to 7, I guess you would say 7 regular season wins the last couple of years. I guess the bowl game has put us over the top in terms of wins, but I do believe we do get to that 7 mark again. I really do think that the Terps will be able to do that. Will it be easy? No, but I do believe unless we get upset, unless we don't play our best, which is entirely possible, I think Maryland has a good shot at going over the win total. I really do believe in the defense, and I believe in Coach Locksley. I believe in Coach Williams, our DC as well. And if our offense can find a rhythm, if we pick the right quarterback, you got 3 options. I feel like one's got to work out. Then I think that Maryland will go over their win total. Maryland football, could they use a 2-quarterback system? Somebody brought this up, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I think it's possible. I'll talk about this after this ad from 5 Hour Energy. Tired after lunch? You're not alone. In fact, research shows that more than 70% of us hit that wall after lunch. Let a 5 Hour Energy shot help you leap over that wall. Or before you begin a workout, you want to get in shape, but you're having trouble staying motivated. Make 5 Hour Energy shots part of your lifestyle and get the energy boost you need to get fit. We all know you sometimes don't want to go to the gym. So take a 5 Hour Energy shot and it will lift you and you'll have the ability and you'll feel ready to go. I've done it a couple times. Up days where I feel lazy, I don't feel like doing stuff. I'll just take a 5 Hour Energy and it'll get me going. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick for me for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone, and I really like them all, so make sure you guys try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack if you just want to go in big or if you want to start smaller. You choose the flavor, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com and enter the number 5, yourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so go to 5hourenergy.com today. I think a 2-quarterback system actually could make a lot of sense for Maryland football. Let me start by saying this. I don't expect Maryland to do this, but I do think that it's a possibility, especially early on the season. I've never really been a fan of the 2-quarterback system, but Maryland could find some success in doing this. I know you guys have seen this in the past where a coach will play 2 quarterbacks. Maybe they'll have different skill sets. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of have 2 quarterbacks in. Like you can have a package for 1 quarterback. There's like a couple different ways you can do it. You can rotate in and out between quarterbacks. There's different possibilities for you to be able to play 2 different types of quarterbacks. I do think that Maryland's team and their quarterback room does kind of fit the mold of, if you're going to do it, this is kind of a quarterback room that you would probably want to do it with, just because I think you have such different skill sets between Billy Edwards and what he brings, between MJ Morris and what he brings, and then all the way to Cameron Edge. It's like on completely different scales. And then I think MJ Morris kind of meets you in the middle, and then Cameron Edge and Billy Edwards are complete opposites. And so when I look at it, 3 quarterbacks aren't going to play, and I don't even expect 2 to play. But I do think that especially if Billy Edwards is not the starter, I do think there is a possibility that you can use a 2-quarterback-ish type of system. And they've done it a little bit, but like not really in the past. And you'll see this sometimes. You'll see a team bring in a quarterback that's bigger on the goal line. And that's what Maryland kind of did with Billy Edwards. But they could probably do a little bit more this year with Billy Edwards if he is not the starter. Like if, let's say, MJ Morris is the starter, or Cameron Edge is the starter, and you don't want Cameron Edge in for this 4th and 1 play because you just want Billy Edwards to sneak it. You could use Billy Edwards in that type of way, or you could have Billy Edwards in a package where, okay, MJ Morris has the first 3 series or whatever, but we bring in Billy Edwards for the 4th series to mix things up, to give them more of a run look, a quarterback run look, a lot of read options, a lot of quarterback power, a lot of those types of different looks. And I think that could work for the Maryland offense. I think that could make some sense for the Maryland offense. But do I prefer this? Do I think this is the right way to go about it? Not really, no. I'm always at the part where I'm like, use one quarterback. I kind of believe in the saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. I do kind of believe in that, unless you're in very specific types of situations. Like sometimes in college football, you'll have a guy that's a starter that's really talented. That could be even a Heisman type of candidate, type of player. But then you could also have a 5-star freshman behind him that's next up in line. Like you could have two quarterbacks for sure. It's more of an NFL type of saying. But I think that running a two-quarterback system does have some benefits, but there's a reason not very many people do it. It's going to get your guy out of rhythm. Like if MJ Morris is starting the first two series or whatever it is, and then Billy Edwards comes in the third series, it can mess up rhythm. It can mess up different things. It can mess up chemistry. Like you don't really want to be doing that. And then it's like, what if MJ Morris doesn't score the first two drives, but Billy Edwards goes in and scores? It can mess with confidence. It can do a whole lot of different things for Maryland football. So I'm not really pro it. I believe there's more back draws to it, but I do think that early on in the season, like against UConn, if he doesn't know who the starting quarterback is, he could give both guys opportunities to look good. He could give both guys opportunities to play. He could give both guys opportunities to do things. And I think you could be looking at against UConn. It might not be labeled as a two quarterback type of system, but he might be playing two quarterbacks or three quarterbacks if he doesn't know who the starter is going into UConn. And he could announce it like today. He could announce it tomorrow. I really don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a package for Billy Edwards. He could come in a lot on third and shorts. I think it's different between if MJ Morris is a starter. I think it's different because I look at MJ Morris and I say, okay, he brings a lot of that dual threat ability. So it's like, do we really need him? Do we really need Billy Edwards to come in? Like they're both similar types of sizes. They're both pretty large. They both can move. Do we need to bring in Billy Edwards to give us a little bit more of a quarterback run game when MJ Morris kind of already brings it? Like, that's why I'm like, I don't really see that. But with a guy like Cameron Edge, I think it can make a lot of sense. So it's still like the Kings probably would have to be worked out and everything. I don't even know exactly if Coach Locksley would ever do that because we haven't seen something like that. But I do think it's kind of an interesting way to go about it. We have seen in the past. We've seen schools do in the past. I was watching SMU play this weekend on week 0 in college football, and they were playing two quarterbacks. They started with the Preston Stone guy, and then they went to a different guy for 2 series because he's been playing well, I guess, and they wanted to preach competition and whatever. So I do think it could happen, but the Maryland, and I think Maryland fits kind of the fits the dynamic of it. If you have to have a specific quarterback room to do it. So I do think it makes sense. But at the end of the day, I think they'll just name a starter. But I do think it's possible. Let me know you guys' thoughts of that. We're almost to week 1. Who are my X factors for the game who nobody's talking about right now? I'll talk about that after this ad from Ultimate GM. Hey, Locked On Terps fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on the brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game in simulation, you can step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. You can imagine being the head coach of the Maryland Terrapins, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships. You control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free and no ads and is 100% playable offline. You can play as a go and you can do it when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Terps. Use this promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, and you will get your team off to a strong start. So download ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on the Apple Store. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. So, a couple of X factors going into this first game against UConn. It's officially a game week. I forgot to kind of do that hype in the first part. I kind of just got into our over in a 6.5 win total for the Terps. But it is game week for the Maryland Terrapins. So, we got to get excited. We got to get up for this. This is what we've been waiting for. I don't know if you guys were able to catch week 0 of college football. I watched the Georgia Tech Florida State from beginning to end, didn't take my eyes off the screen except for on the commercial breaks, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool game. It was really special type of game, and I think you can learn things from that game if you're the Maryland Terrapins team. But I want to talk about X factors. Who on this Maryland team do I think in the first game could be an X factor? Obviously not really for us to just win, because I kind of expect us to win, but yeah, for the rest of the season, and I mean, yeah, for us to also win the game. So who are the X factors for Maryland football in their first game? So I think it's interesting. I have a guy on the defense side of the ball and on the offense side of the ball. On the defense side of the ball, for me, it's Neo Avery. Coach Locksley touched about how he didn't get to play last year and how excited he is for Avery. I love that kid. Watching him in the spring game, he's got good size. He came in as a highly rated recruit. We were able to flip him from Ole Miss, 4-star type of recruit from the DMV era, went to good counsel, kind of had a injury high school experience where he was injured a lot, but we knew the talent when we saw him play, and we knew how good of a player he could be. And so I look at Neo Avery, and he's absolutely an X factor to be a really good player. That he plays behind some really good players on our team, and maybe our most stacked position in that outside linebacker, DN, Jack, whatever you want to call it, type of role, with guys like Donnell Brown, Kellen Wyatt, Krayshawn Fuller, some good players on that side of the ball for sure at that position group. But I believe that he's a guy that a lot of people won't know about, but he's going to be an important starter going into next year. I love his game, to be completely honest, and I think he's a guy that could get a couple of sacks for the Terps in areas where we might not expect him to get it. And maybe a big game, maybe week 1 against UConn, we could see a lot of rotation. We don't need to kill those guys in week 1. And I believe that he's a guy that potentially could make some big time plays. He's only a redshirt freshman, so he's still technically got a lot of eligibility left, but he's gotten a year of experience in terms of he's been in meetings and he's done those different things, but he lost his freshman year to injury and stuff. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Coach Locksley says he's healthy. Coach Locksley says he's ready to go. So I want to see what it looks like for Neo Avery now that he's healthy and everything. I think it'll look good. I'm curious what to see it in person, but I think he's an X factor. Not a lot of people are going to know about, not a lot of people are going to talk about, but I'm excited to see Neo Avery go ball for the Maryland Terrapins. My guy on the offense side of the ball, there's a couple different ways, and I'll give you guys a couple more on another day, but there's a couple different ways you can go with this. For me, I'm going to go Shalik Knotts. Everyone knows Caden Prather. Everyone knows Ty Felton. Octavian Smith had a pretty decent-sized role last year, but not a lot of people know that Shalik Knotts has had a really good camp. For one, I've heard it on all the reports and what Coach Locksley's been talking about and how he stepped up. But there's room in this receiver room for another guy to kind of step up next in line to be the next really good receiver for Maryland football. And to me, that's Shalik Knotts. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think that we're going to play a lot of receivers. I think there's a lot of different guys, Octavian, Shalik, Ryan Manning, Robert Smith. There's a lot of guys in that room that are good players that I want to see play in week 1. But I think he's a guy that could take it over the top, catch a huge ball in our first game that could be an X factor against UConn. I think he's a guy that has that type of talent. He came in as a 4-star, and he's just been sitting behind guys. There's been a lot of different really solid players. Like there's a guy here, there's a guy that, there's been really good players in front of him. And now I want to see Shalik really have the opportunity to go at it, into play, to be able to really have a pretty good size in this offense. So I want to see Shalik. I believe in him. I believe in his size and his traits and what he was as a recruit. And I think he's shown here and there, like, he makes a catch there. I'm like, that's interesting. Makes a catch there. He looks pretty good. But he just always was behind. Really solid receiver room. We always were bringing in transfers and stuff. But those are two guys, Neo and Shalik, in week 1 against UConn. I'm going to be looking for. We're going to need the receiver depth this year. Never know what can happen. Pass rusher depth never hurts as well. 2 important pieces that I think are going to be really interesting this year. Make sure you guys look out for those 2 guys. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you guys all like and subscribe if you're enjoying Locked On Terps. Also, follow me on Twitter. You guys can DM me, text me, whatever you guys want to do. But thank you guys all for listening to Locked On Terps.